Well, it's now over a year since the historic Scottish Independence Referendum, a campaign which saw the corporate media in Scotland ramp up its Project Fear in order to scare Scottish voters into voting against their country regaining its independence. So, here we now have the corporate media BAFTAs. That's the Before and After Awards, folks, where we look at the scary pre-vote corporate media headlines to find the most ironic outcome. So buckle up, strap yourself in, and here we go. It was a close run thing, but just nudging into the chart at number 10, we have Europe's biggest bank, Deutsche Bank, warning before the referendum that Scottish independence would cause a Great Depression in Scotland. Clearly no one has told them about the pretty rubbish weather we have to contend with here most of the time, so they're not quite sure how we could be any worse. And then, a few short months into the future, we find that after the referendum result, Deutsche Bank tells us that Scotland would be a much better place if we go it alone and become independent. With such indecision, we are glad they're not handling our finances. Holding steady at number 9 this year, folks, it's our local rag, the Daily Record, telling us before the referendum that B&Q bosses would hold investment in Scotland if we voted to regain our independence. And then, well, just a few short months after Scotland had voted against becoming an independent nation again, the Daily Record now informs us that B&Q bosses are slashing 3,000 jobs, closing 60 stores, including stores in Dundee. So there you have it, folks. By voting to stay with the UK, B&Q actually slashed its investment. Well, if only we had voted yes, they would have held investment in Scotland. Ah well, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Now, where can I buy a hammer? Just clinging on at number 8, we have that old favourite, High Speed Rail 2. We find that prior to the referendum, folks, ministers in London were warning Scots that a vote for independence would jeopardise Scotland's connection to the high-speed rail link. Well, yes, you guessed it. As soon as the no result was in the bag, we are then told that Scotland won't be getting HS2 anyway, as there's apparently no business case for it. Funny how there was a business case before the vote, folks? But hey, don't worry, look on the bright side. It's not coming to Scotland, but you still get the pleasure of paying to build it all over England. Just sneaking into the chart at number 7, we have good old Auntie Beeb telling Scots before the Indy vote that the referendum was causing uncertainty over the pound in the international money markets. Strange then that after the no vote had been secured, that the pound nosedived to a 5-year low against the US dollar. Well, we can only suppose that if we kept the referendum campaign running, the pound would have held up against the dollar. And straight in at number 6 in this year's chart, folks, we have the UK state broadcaster telling Scots before the Indy referendum that a yes vote could adversely affect Scotland's renewable energy sector. Well, it'll be no surprise by now, folks, to learn that no sooner had the no vote been secured, the London government scrapped wind farm subsidies to Scotland's renewable energy sector. We now all have the joy of paying for the most expensive nuclear power plant ever to be built at Hinkley in England. Halfway through the chart now, pop piggers, and a strong entry here at number 5 from the Telegraph, warning Scots before the referendum vote that Scotland's North Sea oil and gas was running out and that it had only 15 years before it would run dry. Of course, no sooner had the no result been declared that we learn of brand new oil fields being discovered in the North Sea. Of course, we have to keep in mind here, folks, that ever since North Sea oil first came ashore, the London government was telling us here in Scotland that the North Sea was running dry. And here we are, 40 years later, and still finding new oil fields. Getting into the sharp end of business here now, folks, and at number 4 we have a story from The Guardian of former Prime Minister Gordon Brown warning Scots before the Indy vote that a yes result would leave families in Scotland financially worse off. Well, it's been some months now since the no result was announced, and we can now only imagine how many families in Scotland are feeling today with the savage welfare cuts recently imposed by Chancellor George Osborne. Is this the pooling and sharing of resources the Better Together campaign asked us to vote for? Is this the broad shoulders of the UK that would supposedly shield Scots from such draconian measures? Is this the Better Together future they told us about? We're now down to the top 3 in our chart, folks, and taking the number 3 spot we have the Labour Party warning workers in Scotland's tax offices that a no vote in the independence referendum would secure 1,400 HMRC jobs in Scotland. However, slightly over a year later, the London government announced the closure of local tax offices all over Scotland, with the loss of some 2,300 jobs, many of which would be relocated to Croydon in England. After all, as Boris Johnson tells us,
because my argument to the Chancellor, my argument to the Treasury, is that £1 spent in Croydon is far more value to the country from strict utilitarian calculus than £1 spent in Strathclyde. Indeed, you will generate jobs and growth in Strathclyde far more effectively if you invest in Hackney or in Croydon or in other parts of London.
Just pipped to the number 1 spot is this entry from the Scottish Daily Express, which warned Scots voters before the Indy referendum that their pension was at risk if they voted yes. Of course, after the no result had been declared, Scots voters then discovered just how safe their pension was within the UK when the Scottish Daily Express published the truth of the situation, telling Scots who had just voted no that their pension was every bit at risk, if not more so, within the UK, that the state pension was now unaffordable for the UK. It's been a long time getting there, folks, but here we have the 2015 Before and After award goes to Scotland's champion, the Daily Record, who published their infamous vow 2 days before the referendum, and which now, over a year later, 91% of Scots voters believe it has not been delivered, that the Daily Record's vow was in fact simply a con to help shore up a wavering no vote and to help it limp over the winning line. Well done, the Daily Record. A couple of special categories here, folks. The 2015 Before and After Sore Winner Award goes to Scottish Brazzar Michel Mone, who before the referendum threatened to leave Scotland if he voted yes, and who, after the no victory was secured, decided she would depart anyway, leaving behind her a nation in mourning for the poor wee creature that was fleeced to give her some ermine. And finally, the 2015 Before and After Irony of Irony Award goes to the Mail, who before the Indy referendum were telling Scots voters that their telephone costs would rise if we become independent. Well, guess what? When that no vote was secured, this is what happened. So Scotland, when Indy Ref 2 comes along in a few years' time, you can pretty much guarantee that wherever Better Together's Project Fear Mark 2 will scare you with then, that it will actually come to fruition if you vote to stay in the UK anyway.